So I have resent the message. Now you can follow the instruction and can do the needful. I just resent again. Can you see this now in the chat box? All right. Further 30 seconds. I'm waiting for you to do all these things, to check the things. So then we can move forward. Files would be shared in the WhatsApp group, as well as you can have the video and PDF file as well as on the portal, on the Learning Management System LMS portal, and the link is shared with you. You can also find the previous class recording there, and PDF files are also available there. Furthermore, we shall be sharing all this stuff in the WhatsApp group as well. So can we move forward now? I sent again for the last time. Even if you are unable, if any one of you is still unable to see the message, please don't worry, just join the WhatsApp group. We can guide you over there, right? So next discussion pertaining to the salary versus dividend. You are earning salary, you are earning dividend. So here is the comparison of getting salary and getting dividend. By the way, rate of income tax on salary is 20%, 40%, 45%, and dividend income is taxed on at a rate of 7.5, 32.5, and 38.1%. NIC is paid by individual on salary. Individual person must pay class 1 NIC on the salary at 12% or 2%. Whereas no NICs are payable on the dividends received. Apply this scenario on yourselves. You are individual person. On one hand, if you are getting salary, so what are the implications? On other hand, if you are getting dividend, so what are the implications? What are the differences? Third one is NIC is paid by the company. By the way, if you are getting salary from your employer, so what are the responsibilities of, what are the implications of that salary as paid by your employer? Keep remember, employer must pay class 1 NIC on this salary at a rate of 13.8%. Note that employment allowance of 4,000 is not available where the director is a sole employee. And that's very key point. As we know, there is employment allowance of 4,000 is available. But let's say I just highlighted this point that this employment allowance of 4,000 would not be available where the director is a sole employee. Going back to the previous scenario, you started a business via a company. You registered a company and you are the director of that company as well. So now director is an employee. Now you are the employee of the company, but as well as you are the shareholder of that company as well, because you registered the company. In this scenario, in this specific scenario, employment allowance of 4,000 would not be available. I repeat, where the director is the employee, where the employee is the director of company, and where this employment allowance would not be available, where the director is the sole employee of the company. Sole means single, one. You registered your company and you are the director of the company, then employment allowance would not be available in this specific scenario. What next is there? If we talk about NICs, no NIC payable on dividend, either by the individual person who gets dividend income and either by the company who is paying dividend to shareholders. So no one is liable to pay any NICs on dividend income. Corporation tax implication for company. By the way, if you are a company and you hired the employees and are paying salary to those employees, so the salaries paid to employees, these implications are for the company. The salaries paid to employees and the NICs paid by the company are treated as staff cost, and this is allowable expense and can be deducted from the profits of the company. Reduction in profits, hence reduction in corporation tax. Due to this deduction, what will happen? Profit will reduce accordingly. So if the lower amount of profit is calculated, so lower the liability. Whereas for corporation tax purposes, there is no implication for dividend paid, because as we know that dividends are paid out from the retained earning, from the retained profits. After paying all the taxes, the amount of the retained profits, from that amount company would be paying dividend. So dividend is actually paid from the retained profit, which calculated after paying all the taxes and all that. So it means dividend payment has no implication for a company. Next one, pension contribution. Salary is earned income and is relevant for pension tax relief purpose in relevant earning. By the way, remember relevant earning. What is relevant earning? Property. To calculate relevant earning, three things should be added: property income and FHL property income, employment income, and trading income. So this concept pertains to the pension, where the pension a person can max contribute into pension 3,600 or higher of the 3,600 or the relevant earning. So in the calculation of relevant earning, this salary would be added in the form of employment income. Whereas for pension contribution, dividends are not earned income and are not relevant earning for pension tax relief. By the way, what does it mean, relevant earning? So keep remember, relevant earning is defined as any earning which you get from by doing any efforts. I repeat, relevant earning means any income which a person gets by having some efforts. By the way, let's say you are an investor and you actually acquired shares of multiple companies and you are now getting dividends from those companies. So you actually invested income, you actually invested funds in those companies and acquired shares, but you did not perform any activity, or you can say you didn't perform anything for that company. You just invested. You didn't make any efforts. So where you make any efforts, where you do efforts and earn income, so that income would be actually termed as the relevant earnings. So let's say as in employment income, you are doing work, you are performing your job duties, it means you are making efforts. So this employment income would be treated as in the heading of the relevant earnings, right? So keep remember all these implications with respect to salary and dividend. And if you have any unclarity, you may please ask. And if you guys are okay, we can move forward and can start attempting question number 1. And I'm very much hopeful these questions will help you a lot in understanding multiple aspects of text, and specifically it will help you in attempting the section C 10-mark question which pertains to text spanning area. So I'm moving forward. So we have question number 1 in front of us. You are required to calculate income tax. What are the requirements? You are required to calculate the income tax, corporation tax, and NIC contribution, and is going to commence self-employment. Self-employment means sole trader business on 6 April 20. By the way, 6 April 20 is the start of the fiscal year 2021, but is unsure whether to run his business as a sole trader or to trade via a company. So by the way, he is confused that how he should start his business. Should he start business as a sole trader or to trade via a limited company? So this is exactly the scenario we just discussed here, to operate as a sole trader or via a company. But he is unsure to run the business as a sole trader or to trade via a limited company, Amphibian Limited. In either case, if he start business as a sole trader or if he start business as a limited company, in both cases, in either case, and tax adjusted trading profits, no adjustments are required to made. Directly the net tax adjusted profits are given. Hence, tax adjusted trading profits for the year ended 5th April 21 will be 100,000 before taking account any director remuneration or employer's class 1 NIC if trading via limited company. By the way, these things are required to deduct when you operate, you will be operating via a company. So then 2 things are required to deduct: the director's remuneration or the class 1 employer NIC. Whether and should operate as a option 1 sole trader, and on the next page option 2 through a limited company. And under this option, there are further 3 different strategies. If new trades via limited company, then he is considering 3 alternative approaches to extracting profits from the Amphibian Limited. First strategy, he would be taking director remuneration. Second strategy, he would be getting dividend income from the company. And third strategy means these are unrelated options. These are not related with each other. All these 3 things are different and to treat accordingly. The third strategy is to take mixed remuneration package. Mixed remuneration package means he would be taking the employment income from the company and he would also be extracting funds in the form of dividend. So mixed remuneration package include these both things. Now apply the scenario on yourself. First of all, get the requirement fully understand. To fully understand this requirement, apply the situation on yourself. You are Mr. N or Miss N. You want to start a business. Now you are thinking whether you should start business as a sole trader or to trade via a limited company by registering a company and then to start trade. If you start business as a sole trader, then the income tax area would be applicable. Your trading income would be taxed at 20%, 40%, 45% and all that. But if you start operating as a company, then in that scenario, you are further taking into account 3 strategies. Which one of these 3 strategies would be beneficial for you? By the way, after solving this question, we will end up with the 4 answers, 4 values. First value under option 1, sole trader self-employment income. Second value under strategy 1, where you are getting director remuneration. Second strategy, you would be getting dividend income only. And third strategy, you would be getting mixed remuneration package. So first of all, we would be solving and would be getting 4 different answers. Then we will decide whether the person should operate as a sole trader or to operate via a limited company? And if via a limited company, then which strategy would be beneficial? Strategy 1, strategy 2, or strategy 3? So this is how we are going to attempt this question. That's very important. So you guys got the idea? You guys got the idea that what we are going to do? I would request you to please respond. If you will not respond that, then how I will come to know that are you getting my points or not? All right. Thank you for your response. Option 1. Under option 1, we are going to start. We are the Mr. N, we are Miss N, and we are going to start business as a sole trader. And under option 2, we are going to start business as a limited company. By the way, under option 1, it means if we are getting income, I would request you to please mute yourselves. So if we are starting business as a sole trader, so any trading income would be added to our income sheet. By the way, how many columns are there in the income sheet? First one is of non-saving. Second one is of saving, like interest income. Third one is of dividend. And last one is of total. Trading income would be recorded in the non-saving or other income column, the first one column. And it is mentioned in the question that what exactly is the trading income for the year ended. So business is started on this date, and for the year end, total trading, and all these are tax adjusted trading profits before taking into account any director remuneration or employers in IC when if trade via limited company. So I'm going to highlight with green color that this point is to be ignored in this scenario in part A, where we are doing work for sole trader. So trading income is 100,000 would be recorded in the non-saving column. No other income is given. No other income is given. If no other income is given, this would be treated as your total income, 100,000. And from this 100,000 total income, you are allowed to deduct personal allowance. And for the fiscal year 2021, personal allowance amount is 12,500. Also deducting from the total column. After deducting this, taxable income is calculated. That is an amount of 87,500. Simply do calculate the tax over here. Simply do calculate the tax over here. By the way, I'm going to start calculating tax. First band rate is from 1 pound to 37,500. 37,500 would be taxed at 20%. So an amount of 7,500 is calculated. You can see total taxable income is 87.5 thousand minus 37.5 thousand. To the extent of 37.5 thousand, we have taxed that amount at a rate of 20%. So a differential of 50,000 would be taxed at high rate, and high rate for individual person is 40%. So an amount of 20,000 is calculated. Total income tax liability. Total income tax liability by adding these two figures is 27,500. By the way, where you are doing business as a sole trader, so it means on the trading income, you are also required to calculate and pay the class 2 NIC and class 4 NIC. We concluded this point over here. Then when you operate as a sole trader, then you are required to pay class 2 and class 4 NIC on the trading income. So considering this point, I'm going to calculate class 2 NIC. class 2 NIC and class 4 NIC. Class 2 NIC is simply calculated 3.05 per week. And if there is a complete year, you can see business started on 6 April 20 and ends on 5th April 21. So there is a complete time period. And in a complete year, there are 52 weeks. So class 2 NIC is calculated at 3.05 per week into 52 weeks. So an amount of total 158.6 is calculated. Furthermore, as you are operating as a sole trader, then sole trader businesses, sole trader persons are also required to pay class 4 NIC. Class 4 NIC on the taxable profits under trading income. So what is a trading income? By the way, what is a trading income? That is 100,000. Class 4 NIC is calculated on the taxable trading income. And in this scenario, taxable income is 100,000. So if you remember limits, so first limit is from 1 to 9,500. To the extent of 9,500, there is no class 4 NIC. Multiply by nil and answer is nil. Then to the extent of 50,000, all these things, the NIC information and limits are given in the exam question, tax rates and allowances. So a differential of these two, 40,000 and 500 would be at 9%. So 3645 is calculated. Now take the total amount. Total amount is 100,000, of which 50,000 have covered. So on a differential of 50,000, on the remaining amount, 2% NIC is applicable. By adding these three figures, class 4 NIC is total amount is 4645. You can conclude this scenario in a situation by concluding this point. If operate as a sole trader, how many amount, what is the total amount to pay? First one is income tax liability. Second one is class 2 NIC. Third one is class 4 NIC. So I'm going to take the total amount. That is 27,500 plus 158.6 and then 4645. The sum amount would be total 32303. So if you start business and start operating as a sole trader, in that scenario, you would be paying in total, including tax liabilities and NIC liabilities, an amount of 32303. Is that okay? All right. Now, if you start operating as a limited company, if new trades via a limited company, then he is considering three alternative approaches to extracting profits from the Amphibian Limited. By the way, if you operate as a company, and withdrawal of funds can be in the form of salary and bonus, can be in the form of dividends. But third scenario over there in the question is that you would be extracting fund in a mixed remuneration package. So what's in one, what's in second strategy, and what's included in third strategy? So let's start and discuss one by one. Now we are operating as a limited company. We are Mr. N, we are Miss N, and we are going to start business as a company. And if we opt first strategy, we are taking the director remuneration. We are withdrawing the funds from the company as a director remuneration. We are the director of the company. So what are the tax implications? The entire profits which will be withdrawn as director remuneration. By the way, what amount should be over here? This amount should be after allowing for employer class 1 NIC of 11080, and Amphibian Limited is not entitled to NIC annual investment allowance. Why this company is not entitled to that employment allowance of 4,000? We also discussed this point over here. When the person, director, is the sole employee of company, then this employment allowance would not be available. This point is also highlighted in the question. Even if it is not mentioned in question, even still then you cannot take the employment allowance, because we know the concept. If the director is a sole employee of the company, in that scenario, no employment allowance would be available. By the way, what was the total amount? What was the total amount? Total trading profit as given in this scenario are 100,000. First of all, do deduct this NIC as given in this scenario of 11080. A differential of 88920 is calculated. So it's talking about this amount. The entire profit will be withdrawn as a director remuneration. Which profit? This profit, which have been calculated after allowing for employer contribution of this amount. So this amount is actually given in the first para of the question. This 11080 we deducted as the instruction given in the first strategy. So the differential amount, this amount would be extracted as in the form of director remuneration. So this amount is actually would be considered as employment income. Director remuneration would be as employment income. No other income is available, so this would also be considered as total income, TI. And in the absence of any qualifying interest, so it would also be considered as net income. So the net income is 88920. From this, being an individual person, you will get personal allowance of 12,500. After deducting this, taxable income would be calculated. First of all, we are actually discussing the implication for the individual person. After completing the implication for individual person, we will start discussing under this strategy one the implications for the company. This taxable income would be taxed. Then for the first 37,500, to the extent of 37,500, rate of tax would be 20% for individual. So 7,500 is calculated. Then from the total of 76,420 minus 37,500, from this total figure, deduct first amount of 37,500, a differential of 38920. Thank you. Would be multiplied at 40%, and amount as told by yourself, Jyoti, 15568. If you add both figures, so that's the income tax liability for the person if we extract fund from the company in the form of director remuneration. So a sum of 23068. Good enough. So under this strategy, first thing we calculated, that is the implication for person. As a person is extracting funds from the company in the form of director remuneration. Next thing. After this, as we are considering that the person is employee of the company, so class 1 is also applicable on employee as class 1 employee NIC. Class 1 NIC is always calculated on gross cash earnings. Class 1 employee NIC and employer NIC is always calculated as gross cash earnings. Gross cash earning in this scenario are after deduction, he got this amount as remuneration, so this amount would be considered as gross cash earning. So for class 1 employee NIC, what are the limits? For the first 9,500, there is nil. Then if you remember, all these information is given in the tax rates and allowances. To the extent of 50,000, differential amount is 40,500. employee would be paying NIC at 12%. That is 4860. And on the excess amount from 88920, if we take difference of 50,000, so a differential would be 38920, and this would be at 2%. By the way, we marked all these points over here. Where person gets salary, then that person has to pay NICs as well at 12% and 2%. And the amount as told by yourself is 778. Actual amount you told, that is 778.4, but I'm ignoring the decimal places. If you add all these things, so 5638 would be the total amount of class 1 NIC. As we concluded in under option 1, that what is total amount payable, so we concluded this figure 32303. We have to do this thing for each and every scenario in company as well. If you operate as a company, then what is the total amount payable? First thing, as highlighted by green, first thing, the income tax liability of 23068, then class 1 NIC of 5638 plus, please don't ignore this thing. This amount of 11080 is also paid by the employer, is also paid by the company. So if you are operating as a company, the company would be paying this amount. So ultimately, you are going to opt this option. You are going to start business via a company. And if you do business via a company, then being a company, you would have to pay this amount of 11080 as a class 1 employer NIC. So I'm going to take that amount as well, 11080. So if you do in this way, so what is the total cost? That is 39786. If you operate via a company, then the total amount would be 39786. So also highlighted this figure. We will also be calculating the sum under strategy 2, the sum under strategy 3 as well. First thing, as calculated on the last page as 32303. Second answer, the total amount calculated 39786. Now let's talk about the second strategy. Under the second strategy, you are taking dividends. The entire amount net of profits will be withdrawn as dividend after allowing for corporation tax. By the way, where from we can get this corporation tax amount? That's already given in this scenario. This 100,000 profit is before taking account director remuneration and employer class 1 NIC. Okay. Over here, when you would be extracting dividends from the company, so the entire net of tax means, first of all, do deduct the tax amount, then calculate the post-tax profits, then that amount can be taken as dividend. But by the way, if taxable trading profits are of 100,000 and you are operating as a company, so corporation tax liability is calculated at 19%. 100,000 into 19%, that is an amount of 19,000. Net of tax profits. So net of tax profits are, after paying this corporation tax, net amount remained in the company, that is 81,000. So examiner is talking about this thing, that this amount can be taken as dividend. By the way, now let's talk about the individual person. Over here, when you prepare income sheet, so you would be recording this income as dividend income of 81,000. No other income is given, so this would be considered as total income. In the absence of any qualifying interest. This would be considered as net income. From this, deduct the personal allowance. You are extracting funds in the form of dividend. So these are the implication for individual person, for N. So this amount of dividend would be considered as dividend income for N. And after deducting this personal allowance, taxable income of N is calculated. That is 68,500. By the way, no NSEs are payable on dividend income. Let's talk about the taxability. From this dividend income, first 2,000 dividend income is exempt. What is the band rate? The first band rate is 37,500. These are not linked with each other. These two are not, even these three are not linked with each other. You have to think separately for each scenario. By the way, what is the remaining amount of dividend which is to be taxed? After deducting this 2,000, so remaining amount is of 66,500. Now, how to tax this 66,500? By the way, remaining band amount would be actual amount, band amount is 37,500, but this band has already covered by exemption amount. So the remaining amount of the band is 35,500. To the extent of this amount, in the basic rate, dividends are taxed at 7.5%. So an amount of, let me show you the calculations in this manner, by the way. For your clarity, let me do the calculations in this way. If first band limit is 37,500 and 2,000 dividend exempt. So for the first 1,000, for the first 2,000, there is nil tax liability. And the first band rate is also to be reduced with the exemption amount. So a differential of 35,500 is left in the band. What's income there? Your answer is perfectly fine. Very good. So from 68,500, if 2,000 are covered under dividend, so what is the differential figure of dividend which is to be taxed? 66,500. From this 66,500, an amount of 35,500 would be covered under basic rate band, and a differential of 31,000 would be covered under high rate band. So from this 66,500, according to the available band limit, so the band rate would be 7.5%, and the amount told by you, that is 2,663. And on the excess amount in the second band rate, dividend tax rate is 32.5%. So 10075 is calculated. Why we are using 7.5 and 32.5? Because we are having dividend income over here. So we are applying the dividend rates. By adding these two figures, 12738 is calculated. By the way, let's conclude this scenario as well. If you operate as a company and extract fund in the form of dividend, so the liability is payable by yourself, that is 12738, as well as you are operating business as a company, so the company is required to pay corporation tax of 19,000. I'm also going to take that 19,000, because in a case where you are operating as a company, you would be paying tax as individual person on the dividend income, as well as company paid the tax of 19,000 on the profits earned by company. So 31738 is the total value. What next is there? Now let's talk about the third strategy. And will pay himself gross director's remuneration of 8,000. and dividends of 50,000. You can see in scenario 1, he was getting the director remuneration only. In scenario 2, he was getting dividends only. But in mixed remuneration package, he is getting director remuneration of 8,000 as well as dividend of 50,000. He is taking both things. But next is there. Amphibian Limited will make a pension contribution of 10,000 into a company pension scheme. That's occupational pension, with the balance of the profits remaining undrawn within the new company. Okay. By the way, as now over here, we considered this 88,920 as employment income. In this scenario, we considered this 81,000 as dividend income. But over here, he is extracting funds into two forms. First one in the form of employment income, second in the form of dividend income. Then now we have to take two columns for each separate income and total for these two. If he is getting employment income, that would be recorded in the others column, non-saving column, and employment income he is getting as director remuneration 8,000 and extracting funds in the form of dividend, which are 50,000. Also marking in the total column 8,000 and 50,000. The sum would be 58,000 and it's our total income. From this, we can deduct qualifying interest. No qualifying interest is given. So this would be considered as net income. And then from net income, we can deduct the personal allowance. Total amount is 12,500, of which 8,000 can be deducted from the first column. And remaining 4,500 can be deducted from the second column. And total amount of 12,500 from the total column. After deducting this, taxable income is calculated as nil for the first column, then 45,500 for second column, and in total 45,500 would remain same. Now let's start discussing the taxation. Then again, I'm going to start working for the availability of the first band limit. As we did here, basic rate band amount is 37,500. There is nil column in the first column. So directly we are going to tax the second column, which is a dividend income. So this first band would be firstly covered by 2,000 of dividend exemption. So remaining band limit is, so the remaining band limit is 35,500. From this 45,500, if 2,000 income is exempt, so we are going to tax the remaining amount of 43,500. But this 43,500 can be taxed in a manner to the extent of the first band availability, to the extent of 35,500, there would be a basic rate of dividend that is 7.5, and on the excess amount, that is 8,000, on this amount, second band rate of dividend would be applicable. By multiplying these two figures, 2663, that is 2663. And over here, 8,000 into 32.5, that is 2,600. All these two figures, if added, so 5,263 is the total amount. Over here, conclude the things. As you got mixed remuneration package, then you have to pay a liability of 5,263 plus corporation tax. What is the amount of corporation tax, by the way? We didn't calculate over here. Like we calculated an amount of 19,000 in the second strategy, but corporation tax is yet to calculate under third strategy. So I'm going to calculate for this mixed remuneration package, what is the total corporation tax liability. The total profits of the company are 100,000, of which 8,000 paid as salary, that is allowable expense for company. Then company also paid pension contribution into the occupational pension. That is an allowed expense to deduct by the employer. After deducting these two figures, net amount is 82,000 and corporation tax is at 19%. So 155, 82,000 into 19%, 15580 would be the corporation tax liability. Do add this thing over here, as you are operating via a company and you are withdrawing funds in a mixed remuneration package. So these are the implication and the tax liability for individual person, and this 15580 is the liability of the company in under this strategy. 15580. If we add both figures, so resultingly we end up with the figure of 20843. Now it's time to conclude. Now it's time to conclude, and important decision is on you. Now it's time to conclude, and decision is on you. Should we operate as a sole trader? When we operate as a sole trader, so the total liability was 32303. Or should we operate via limited company? And if via limited company, then in which strategy? Strategy 1, 2, or 3? Under strategy 1, it's 39786. Under strategy 2, the sum would be 31738. Under strategy 3, the sum would be 20843. So which option is beneficial? If you look under sole trader, an amount of 32,303 is our total cost calculated. 32,000. This 32,000 is less than this one and only this one. 32,000. We have two other figures which are less than 32,000. So now decision is on yourselves. If you operate as a sole trader, then you would have to bear total cost of 32303. And if you operate as a company, then these three figures are in front of you. So what is your concluding point? I guess this one is the most beneficial. We should operate as a company and to extract funds in a mixed remuneration package. So we will end up with the lowest cost calculated under operating as a via limited company and under third strategy. Is this thing okay? Is this thing okay? I really appreciate your comments, your feedback. All right. So I would be sharing this PDF file and the recording as also shared for yesterday class. Please don't worry for this thing. Just focus on, thanks for your feedback, Sumera. Just focus on the things and try to understand to the max possible extent as you can understand. We are not actually studying TX. We are actually practicing TX. And I'm doing practice question on the assumption that you have studied, you have recalled all the areas. So that is why we are directly moving towards a question and we are discussing the things. But what's the important point, that we are actually linking and we are thinking broadly that what can be done in each scenario. So as we just completed question 1, now I have another question. You guys now can take a 10 minutes break. Actually, it's prayer time. So I'm actually giving a break of 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we'll start this question number two. There are there is requirement 2A, there is requirement 2B. This question is same like the previous one where we have to compare the things and to conclude that which option is better. That's an important one. So it's time at my end is 5:37. I would be starting at like 5:47. Welcome back. So now we can start discussing question number 2. We have scenario in front of us, and there are basically 2 requirements of this question. Two A and 2B. Please read the scenario very carefully. You should assume that today's date is 20th March 20. Sammy Smith is a director of Spark Limited. The company has given her the choice of being provided with a leased company motor car, alternatively, being paid additional director remuneration and then privately leasing the motor car and leasing the same motor car herself. By the way, what is the scenario over here? Sammy is a director of Spark Limited. Company want to give motor vehicle to employee for use and considering 2 alternative options. The company has given her the choice of being provided with a leased company motor car. In this scenario, when the employer provide a car to employer, so the employment, so the car benefit is calculated for employee. Alternative approach is being paid additional director remuneration, means company is asking to get an increase in the salary and arrange the motor car by herself. All right. So company motor car. The motor car will be provided throughout the tax year 2021, throughout means for complete 12 months. And its provision will result in the taxable benefit of 30340 for Sammy. By the way, as I told you, when employer provide car to employee, then car benefit is calculated, and the amount of car benefit after calculation has already given in question. The motor car will have an official CO2 emission rate of 200 grams per kilometer and will be leased by Spark Limited at an annual cost of 27,720. All right. The lease payments will cover all of the cost of running the motor car except for fuel. Spark Limited will not provide Sammy with any fuel for private journeys. So it's the alternative one where the company is planned to providing the motor car. But let's say, what are the implications under second alternative, where the company is actually increasing the salary to employee? As an alternative to having a company motor car, Sammy will be paid additional gross salary. Instead of car, company is actually increasing the salary of the employee in the form of remuneration of 28,000 during the tax year 2021, and she will then privately lease the motor car. Other information: Sammy's current annual director remuneration is 65,000. Spark Limited prepares account to 5th April. Requirement 2A. It's question number 2. So requirement of this question 2A is advise Sammy Smith, advice for the person of the income tax and national insurance contribution implication for the tax year 2021 if she is provided with the company motor car and 2 receives additional director remuneration. So here we are going, being a tax advisor, we are the tax advisor, we are going to advise the person that if she gets car, what are the implications for herself, and instead of car, if she get increased salary, so what are the tax implications for the person? On the other hand, on 2B, advice is Spark Limited. So being a tax advisor, we also have to advise the company that what are the corporation tax and NIC implication for the year ended 5th April 21 if the company provide car to employee, and instead of providing car under 2, if pay additional director remuneration of 28,000. Notes: you should assume that 19% rate of corporation tax for the financial year 20 continues to apply. You should ignore the value added tax and the NIC employment allowance. So read the scenario carefully. I'm giving you 1 minute time. Again. Then I will start discussing the things. Please mute yourselves.
What are
I'm just giving you 1 minute time to think about this scenario. Keep remember, first of all, try to get the information available. Please don't think about the answer. First of all, do get the understanding of the scenario, that what's actually going on and what to do in this scenario. Under requirement 2A, we will answering two things. The first one, providing motor car. Number two, additional salary for the person. Under 2B, same thing, to answer in two form: advice to company when the company actually provide asset to employee, and on the other hand, if the company increase the employer salary. Both things for both employer and employer. So going to answer the first part, tax implications for employee under option 1, motor car, where the employee is getting motor car from the company, and tax implication for employee under option 2, additional salary. Same for the next requirement, tax implications for company What's the difference? Over here, we will talk about tax implications for employee, tax implication for company under option 1, providing motor car, under option 2, providing additional salary. So that's the theme of the answer. By the way, now let's start discussing one by one. First thing to think about, Sammy's current annual director remuneration is 65,000. So the employee is basic rate taxpayer or a high rate taxpayer. Going to start answer. Very right, Jyoti. She is high rate taxpayer. As she is high rate taxpayer, how we did come to know about this? By having a look on the current salary. As she is high rate taxpayer, and if he receives car, and resultingly car benefit of, by the way, car benefit amount has already given in question, car benefit of 30340, this amount is given in scenario. Provision of car would result in car benefit of taxable benefit of 30340 would be added to her employment income. And it will result in the increase of income tax liability by the amount if she is already high rate taxpayer, and if additional amount of benefit of 30340 is added to the employment income. So it means on this amount further 40% of tax would be calculated, and it will result in the increase of income tax liability by the amount of 12136. For next point, no NIC. By the way, if employer provide car or any benefit, is the employee is required to pay any NIC on the benefits amount? No, employee is not required to pay any NIC on benefit amount. Employer is required to pay NIC on the benefits provided, and that is class 1A NIC. If she get car from employer, no NIC for employee. On the benefit received, option 2. If she get additional salary, what will happen? Her income tax liability, please mute yourselves. Her income tax liability would increase by how much amount? By the way, if she gets salary increased salary, so further 28,000 would be given to her. So if 28,000 would be added to salary, as she is already a high rate taxpayer, so on this amount of salary received under this strategy, so her income tax liability would increase by 11,200. Second, salary is cash earning and included in gross cash earnings for the purpose of class 1 employee NIC, because class 1 employee NIC is calculated and paid on gross cash earnings amount. So for the purpose of class 1 employee NIC, which is, by the way, currently she has salary, so currently she would be paying NIC at 2%. So if she get additional 28,000 salary, which is 560 additionally payable as NIC on the salary increase. Any question from this specific part of the question? Any disagreement, any unclarity, you may please ask. If you guys are okay, we can move forward. Waiting for your responses. How NIC is calculated? Good question. Let me show you the working from the previous question. Where in the last question, where the person was extracting fund in the form of director remuneration, so we calculated class 1 employee NIC. For the first 9,500, there was nil NIC. From 50,000, there was an NIC of 12%. But on the excess amount, on the above amount, which is more than 50,000, NIC percentage would be 2%. So I got the percentage from here. How we applied it? She has already salary of 65,000. It means she has already paying any NICs on 2% because 65,000 is more than 50,000. So it means if she gets any further salary, the NIC percentage would be 2%. Is this thing okay? Jyoti, is this clear now? Good. Let's talk about the second half of the question. Now we are going to advise the company that what are the implications for company. If company pay additional, if company provide car, then what will happen? Company is, because it's the benefit provided to employee, company is required to pay class 1A NIC on the amount of benefit provided. By the way, which one benefit? Car benefit provided to employee. And what is the amount? As the benefit has already given in question 30340, and employer is required to pay NIC on this, on any benefit amount at 13.8%. So resultingly, it would be 4187. Next thing, as car CO2 emission, it's mentioned in question. What is the CO2 emission of the car? 200 grams per kilometer. Remember, employer can deduct the lease rental of the car, but if car CO2 emission is more than 110 grams per kilometer, then 15% of the lease rental would be disallowed. We studied this rule under trading income rules. We studied this thing under trading income rules. I repeat, lease rental car is an allowed expense, but it's dependent on the CO2 emission as well. If lease car CO2 emission is less than 110 grams per kilometer, then 100% of lease rental would be an allowed expense. Whereas if car CO2 emission is more than 110 grams per kilometer, then 15% of the lease rental would be disallowed. As car CO2 emission is more than 110 grams per kilometer, hence 15% of the lease rental would be disallowed. By the way, what is the amount of disallowed expense? If company provide car, so annual cost would be 27720. 27720 is the car lease rental, and if 15% amount is disallowed due to CO2 emission is of more than 110 grams per kilometer, so resultingly 4158 would be our disallowed expense. Total, hence, let me complete over here. Hence, 23562 would be allowed. How we did calculate it? 27720 is the lease rental amount, and of which 4158 is disallowed. Hence, 23562 would be allowed. Now, concluding, total allowable expenses for the company would be, total allowable expenses for company 4187, that is the amount of NIC calculated, and this one (4187) plus 23562. So this amount would be summed as 27749, I guess. By the way, if it's an amount of expense, if expense increasing, so profit would decrease. If profit is decreasing, so corporation tax liability CTL would be decreasing. By how much company would be getting tax saved? 27749 is the amount of expense. If expense is increasing, profit would be decreasing, and due to reduction in profit, if the profits are calculated at lower figure, if profits are lower, then the corporation tax liability would be lower. So 27749 multiplied with 19% corporation tax rate, resultingly 5272 would be the reduction in the corporation tax liability. Would be the overall reduction for the company in the corporation tax liability in a scenario where the company is providing car to employee. Is this thing clear? Is this thing clear, please? Under option 2, what are the implications for the company where the company is increasing the salary of the employee instead of providing the car? So under option 2, company is required to pay class 1 employer NIC, class 1 employer NIC on the amount of salary, because salary is a gross cash earning. As employee pay gross cash earning, class 1 employee NIC on gross cash earning. Same case with the employer. Employer has to pay class 1 employer NIC on the amount of the gross cash earning, which is a salary. So if company is increasing employer salary by 28,000, then employer NIC is class 1 employer NIC is at 13.8, that would be 3864. Point number 2, as a salary paid to employee is an allowable expense, salary paid to employee of 28,000 is allowable expense to deduct it, is allowable expense to deduct it, to deduct it from profits of the company, and hence tax saving. What is the amount of the tax saving? If 28,000 deducted from the company's profit, so it's an allowable expense. So the total would be 28,000 plus class 1 employer NIC is also allowable deduction 3864. So resultingly total amount would be 31864. So if the amount of expense is increasing, profit would decrease accordingly. If profit is decreased, so the corporation tax liability would also be decreasing. So overall tax saving would be 31864 into, as we did over here, 31864 into 19%. So resultingly 6054 would be the reduction in the corporation tax liability, because as expenses are increasing, so the resulting corporation tax liability would be decreasing. By the way, where you can have more tax saving? Corporation tax reduced by 5272 is beneficial, or corporation tax liability reduced by 6054 would be beneficial. And under scenario 1, you can also see the implications for employee, and under option 2, we are advising the company that which option would be beneficial. Requirement 2C, determine which of the two alternative is the most beneficial from the point of view of the SMARC Limited. With respect to company, which option is beneficial? Requirement C is not about the tax saving of with respect to employee. Requirement 2C is specifically talking about the tax saving, the most beneficial option with respect to SMARC Limited, with respect to company. If company provide car or increase employer salary, now we are going to conclude the things. When company increased provided car, so cost of providing car is company has to bear the rental of annual cost of 27720. Company has to pay 4187 as employer NIC, but due to this there would be a tax saving of 5272. So I'm going to take these three figures. Car providing cost, $27720, the annual cost, class 1A employer NIC 4187, and then reduction in corporation tax liability. By the way, what's the amount of the reduction in the corporation tax liability? 5272. By netting of all these three, 26635 would be the total cost. If company increase the salary of employee, then what are the total costs? Salary paid is the outflow from the company by 28,000. Under this scenario, class 1 employer NIC is to be payable. Employer NIC, we just calculated the figure 3864. Under this option, reduction in corporation tax liability by 6054. So you can see 25810 is calculated. Now compare these two options and conclude which option is beneficial with respect to company, whether the company should provide car to employee or whether the company should increase the salary of the employee. So this option is beneficial wherein the company ended up with a lower cost as compared to 26635. In this situation, the total cost is 25810. So increasing the employee salary would be beneficial for this company. Is this thing fine? In question number 4, requirement is to tell about the immediate IST and CGT implications will be. We don't know the scenario, but requirement specifically is asking about the immediate IST and CGT implications will be with respect to above scenario. On 4th May 20 in the fiscal year 2021, D made a gift to his son of 15,000. With respect to capital gains, whenever we see this word gift, so one thing which should come to our mind, that is gift relief. And with respect to capital gains, if a person, if an asset is transferred to a connected person, so then the gift relief would be available if gifter and giftee both are agree to claim the gift relief. But another condition is that the business should be the business, the asset should be the business asset. On 4th May 20, D made a gift to his son of 15,000 ordinary shares, ABC Limited, an unquoted investment company. Before the transfer, D owns 60,000 shares out of ABC Limited share capital of 100,000. ABC Limited shares are worth 18 for a holding of 60%, 10 for a holding of 45%, and 8 for a holding of 15%. He purchased 60,000 shares for 90,000 few years ago, assuming this is his first lifetime transfer ever. So immediate implications under capital gain tax and immediate implications under inheritance tax. By the way, as you can see, D transferred this asset in life to his son, and it's the transaction in between the connected persons. So we can write, and one important thing, unquoted company shares are always treated as business asset. Unquoted company shares are always treated as business asset. So it's a transfer between connected persons. Under CGT, it's a transfer between connected persons, and transaction between connected persons should always be recorded at market value at transaction time. Transaction between connected persons should always recorded at market value. at transfer time. So what is the market value at transfer time? On a 60% holding, price of each share is 18, and 45 on a 45% shareholding, price of each share would be 10, and for a 15% holding, price for each share would be 8. So by the way, as he acquired 60,000 shares from a total share capital of 100,000. So it means he has holding of 60%. But as he is transferring only 15,000 shares, 15,000 means 15 divided by 100 into 100, that is 15% holding. So 15,000 shares represent 15% holding. We can take the market value from here. For 15% shareholding, market value of each share would be 8. So under capital gain tax, this transaction should be recorded at 120,000 immediately. What are the implications under IST? If a person transfer an asset in lifetime, so from IST perspective, it is to be treated as potentially exempt transfer, and the concept to follow is the diminution in estate. Diminution in estate or reduction in wealth. According to this concept, diminution in estate or reduction in wealth, both are same. So by the way, how to calculate the things under value inheritance tax? So value of asset before gift, value of asset after gift, then the value of PT would be calculated. Before transfer, he had 60,000 shares, and according to 60% holding, share price of 18 would be taken. After transfer, he only owned 45,000 shares of the company because 15,000 transferred to son. So we are actually doing all these things for the transferor, Daniel. According to 45,000 shares, which represent a 45% holding. So value after gift would be at 10 each, and value of PT is the value of the 15,000 shares which actually transferred to son. So value before gift was 1080,000. Value after gift is only 450,000, and then it means the value of the PT is calculated. Value 15,000 shares is calculated, which is 630,000. But furthermore, annual exemption would be available for the fiscal year 2021 in which the asset is being transferred. So annual exemption of 3,000 for this year. And if nothing is mentioned about with respect to previous year annual exemption, that can also be deducted. If it is not mentioned, then simply we can deduct. After deducting this, net value of PET is calculated. So that's the immediate treatment under inheritance tax. So an amount of 624,000 is calculated. Question number 5, alternate investment alternative. Outline the tax implications of each of the investment alternative. T has recently inherited the residue of his aunt's estate. He will use the inheritance for the following purposes. Now, you being a tax advisor, you have to tell that which option would be beneficial. Alternative 1. proposal pension contribution. T will make the maximum possible amount of additional tax relievable pension into personal pension scheme for the year 2021. Additional means, additional word shows he has already contributed in pension contribution, but if he want to invest more in pension contribution, so what are the implications? Having already made a contribution of 10,000 during this tax year means fiscal year 2021, his adjusted income for the year is 2021 will not exceed 240,000. As we know, if adjusted income exceeds 240,000, then annual allowance of pension contribution, that is 40,000, that start decreasing. If adjusted income is increased to 40,000, then the available amount of the 40,000 would start decreasing. He has been self-employed since 6 April 2018 and has been a member of the pension contribution since that year. T trading profit and gross pension contribution since the commencement of self-employment have been as follows: 18, 19, 20, 2021 trading profits are 32, 44,000, 78,000. Pension contribution in 18, 19, 0. In 26,000, in 19, 20, 26,000, and in 2021 that is 10,000. So what is going to happen? Let me recall few things with respect to pension contribution. Pension contribution is the higher of 3,600 and relevant earnings. Relevant earnings include three things: FHL property income, employment income, and trading income. No FHL is given in question, no employment income is given in question, but the trading income is given in question. For the fiscal year 2021, he has trading income of 78,000. So it means he can max contribute in pension contribution to the relevant earning. Now, next step to find the max pension contribution limit. Max pension contribution. First of all, the current year pension contribution limit. After tapering, this amount should be after tapering, but as you can see, it is clearly mentioned in question that adjusted income is not exceeding to 40,000. So this amount will not get taper, and 40,000 for each year would be available, for this year would be available. And then to calculate the maximum pension contribution, 3 previous tax years unused annual exemption can be availed and can be brought forwarded. Last 3 years are 1920, 1819, and 1718. What is the amount of the available pension contribution limit in 1920? Each year amount is 40,000, but he contributed 44,000 in 1920. So nothing is available. If you look back in 1819, sorry, my bad, pension contribution in the last column. He actually invested, he contributed in 1920 an amount of 26,000. So from 40,000, if he actually contributed 26,000, so an amount of 14,000 can be brought forwarded. In 1819, nothing contributed. In 1718, he was not the member of the pension contribution. So total amount, tax relief pension contribution amount is calculated as 54,000. But this amount has already covered by this pension contribution, as he has already made pension contribution, already contributed in 2021. That's an amount of 10,000 as given in scenario. So what is the total relievable personal pension contribution limit available? Total relievable personal pension contribution limit available. So that is an amount of 44,000. What will happen if he contributes more than this figure? So last point with respect to his alternative one, if he invests, sorry, instead of word invest, please write if he contribute. If he contributes more than 44,000 into pension, then on the excess amount, there would be a charge named as annual allowance charge. So we have done with alternative one. If he actually contributes in the pension contribution from the inherited amount, so what are the implications? So being a tax advisor, we are telling the implications. As he inherited the aunt's estate, now under alternative 2, he is planning to gift to his daughter. He will make a cash gift of 100,000 to his daughter when she gets married on 29th March 21. He has not made any previous lifetime gifts. So with respect to IST, this would be considered as potential exempt transfer, as the transfer to any person is PET. Then from PET, annual exemption. By the way, on 29th March 21 is in the fiscal year 2021. Annual exemption of 2021 can be deducted of 3,000. Furthermore, as he has not made any lifetime transfer, so it means previous year annual exemption can also be brought forwarded and can be deducted from here. Furthermore, as she is transferring this amount at time of marrying of his daughter, so another exemption can be claimed, that is marriage exemption. These three alternatives are nothing to do with each other. So examiner is actually asking about the outline the tax implication of each investment alternative. So we just are required to outline the implications. So implication for this one and implication for this two, as well as implication for third alternative. Marriage exemption is of 5,000 from parent and 2,500 per grandparent, and 1,000 from any other person is exempt from IST. So the net PET value would be, net PET value is calculated as 89,000. Further points to remember with respect to this PET. PET is exempt at transfer time. And but it will become taxable if T dies within 7 years of transfer. By the way, what is the date within 7 years? Like, he actually transferred this asset on 29th March 21. Till 7 years date would be 29th March 2028. If T expires within above dates, this PET will become taxable. You can further add on one point over here, like taper relief would be available if he dies within 3 to 4 years. So then the taper relief would be available at 20%. But if he dies within 3 years, then no taper relief would be available. Let's talk about alternative 3, individual saving account. First of all, let me recall a few things regarding this individual saving account. For this fiscal year, if you invest 20,000 in ISA, then any income would be exempt. Any income would be exempt. ISA can be of two types: the stock ISA, or it can be cash individual saving account. Stock ISA means you are investing in shares. Cash ISA means you are depositing cash in individual saving account. And there is no restriction to invest in either. Let's say you can invest 8,000 in stock and remaining 12,000 in cash, or vice versa, or you can contribute this 20,000 amount, 50% in cash stock ISA, 50% in cash ISA. Let's say if you want to invest 70,000 in cash ISA, 30% in stock ISA. So that's allowed. There is no restriction that how much amount you should have to invest in cash ISA or in stock ISA. But to the extent of the 20,000 investment in individual saving account, any income would be exempt. But if you invest more than the 20,000 limit, then the additional amount would be, then any income on the additional investment would be taxed. So let's read the scenario. T will invest the maximum possible additional amount into individual saving account for the tax year 2021. He has already invested 5,400 into a cash ISA during the tax year, having previously invested 6,200 into a cash ISA during the previous tax year. Now let's start answering, and we are actually going to tell the tax implication. ISA limit per year is 20,000, and the person can invest either in cash individual saving account or stock individual saving account, stock ISA. There is no restriction. As he has already contributed 5,400 in the fiscal year 2021, hence he can further invest 14,600 in either in cash or shares or stock ISA. Concluding point: any return in the form of interest income, return in the form of interest income from investment in ISA would be exempt from tax. And if he made investment within the allowed limit, by the way, any return means interest income from investment in individual saving account would be exempt from tax if he made investment within the allowed limit of 20,000. But what happens if he invests more? But if he invests more than 20,000, then the interest income would be taxable calculated on the excess investment. Let's say he invests 22,000, then to the extent of 20,000, he gets, let's say, the interest rate is 10%. On the total investment of 22,000, he would be getting interest of 2,200 as per 10%. But to the extent of first 20,000 of interest income, the 2,000 of interest income would be exempt and additional 200 would be taxed. So, but if he invests more than 20,000, then the interest income would be taxable, calculated on the excess investment than 20,000. We can take the example like this. Allowed limit is 20,000. Let's say interest rate is 10%. So interest income would be 2,000. This interest income would be exempt interest. But let's say he invested in 22,000 into 10%. So he would be getting 2,200, but from of which 2,000 as normal would be exempt, and additional on excess amount of 200, 2,000. Excess amount is, as compare, excess amount would be 2,000. So on this 2,000, the interest would be 10%. So 200 would be taxable. So this is how you would be responding in this scenario. Hopefully all the things are crystal clear with respect to cash ISA. If you guys are okay, then we can conclude today's session, and what we are going to do in next class, in next session, inshallah we shall be attempting CB practice platform questions. So like section C type questions. So you would be getting an idea that how to attempt question in real exam scenario.